making a post because I always say all of these things, when black men get killed, to me it's a trigger. It's another form of trauma that I have to experience, and it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't. But hearing Jason Whitlock give his commentary on the situation, right, it was so disturbing because, again, black women are always found to be the problem or the reason as to why things are happening, right? So for him to say that this is a story about black men, their inability to like just treat one another in a human way, I agree. That's the problem. That is the problem. However, to continue to say, but it's the result of black single mothers or black single women or whatever, like, that is where it's just like, so you're gonna attack a group of people and then wait let me go back. So you say it's black single women, their problem, right? The result of however you exonerate white men. And it's like, how could you even fix your mouth to say that? It's the white men that he even named. It's their forefathers, their ancestors that put things in place to oppress not only the black woman, but the black man as well. I mean, if you go historically through slavery, you talking about breaking up of homes and things like that and families, like that started then, and it perpetuated centuries, decades, and this is the aftermath of those things happening, those things being in place. And for you to fix your mouth and have the audacity to blame single black women for the problem, that shit is like low. And it's because of people like you within our community who want to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to our real problems and really where they're rooted from, where the seeds were truly planted, and to just say, well, you know, it's because of the woman, the black woman, which, I mean, Malcolm X said that we're the most unprotected, undervalued, like we got to carry everything on our back. So you're going to give us one more problem in the midst of mourning and grieving another loss of another man within our community. You're gonna put that on us too, but exonerate the people who literally designed this system to work just the way that it is. I think that's whack. I think it's weak, and I think you really need to evaluate the opportunity that you have to speak and use your black voice. Use it wisely, responsibly, and be caring for, have a little bit more human compassion and love your black women and the people which you came from. You came from a black woman. Like, love them in a more human way. Take your own advice.
All right. So, public enemy number one, shameful reality. The reason black men do not want to make the issue of black men deleting each other at overwhelming numbers, public enemy number one, is because they don't want to tell white supremacy that they are right. Hear me out. Let me give you some context. For so long, white supremacy has been telling the black community that black areas and the people that live in those areas are violent, dangerous criminals, specifically the black men. In the 1990s, not only did law enforcement paint the picture to America of black areas being dangerous and violent, which ultimately added to the dehumanizing black people and further disenfranchising black communities, black education, black prison and justice system, etc. But what nobody talks about is how law enforcement also had the help of black cinema and gangster rap or hood music, okay, to aid them in painting such a negative picture to America, because in both the movies and in the music, what did we hear? What did we see? You guys tell me what we hear and what we saw, especially in the 90s. We're talking about the 90s. And I can tell you it was not empowerment. It was, according to many, a true representation of what it was like being black and growing up in black areas, aka the hood or the ghetto. That's what those movies did. That's what the songs from that area did. All right. So with movies such as South Central, Juice, New Jack City, New Jack City was the whole drug thing. South Central was all we saw was, black men killing each other. That's what we saw in the movie Juice. In the movie South Central. In the movie Juice, what do we see? A black man basically killing his best friend, his childhood friend. All right. What do we see in New Jersey Drive? Black young boys. What they were robbing and carjacking. What do we see in Above the Rim? All right. What do we see? We saw your typical hood, story of how somebody that was really good in sports made it out, but there are some that didn't. That's kind of typical, right? We saw Menace to Society. All right. Again, another movie about how showing black men killing and taking each other out, not liking each other, senseless, deleting of each other. The movie Fresh, and then also the series Tales from the Hood, and many, many more. That's just to name a few. But what I've come to realize is that on a large scale, black men as a group will never make the violence issue public enemy number one. Because if they were to do that, they would have to give the racist the option to say, I told you so. That's it right there. All right, so that movie scene is from Boys in the Hood, and I think that is a really, really perfect example of what we see here with this case with these 5 cops from Memphis. And I think America, the black community, many people in the black community as well, but America just basically learned a shameful reality that is within the black community. And that shameful reality is that, well, technically, they probably already knew because, they see the statistics, with the violence, the murder rate, with black men deleting each other. They see that. Everybody sees that. Everybody knows that. But to have cops, right? These are men who are supposed to be in leadership positions. These are men who, have supposed to have the training, and then with all the the cases of black men and women, but, more so black men who are basically deleted and they're unarmed is extreme. So everybody sees what's going on, to include these black cops. And you would think that they would have some type of awareness, right? You would think that they would have some type of community, right? But no, they don't. And the whole world is seeing this. All right. And as black people, you can try to twist and turn this and try to make it into something that it's not. But the reality of it is, we are, regardless of what areas these men come from, regardless of what homes, the type of homes these men come from, they were police officers. Bottom line, they were supposed to be in leadership positions. Bottom line. And they took out another man who looks just like them. Bottom line. Bottom line. Let's stop making excuses for what this is. Okay, so let me give you guys some statistics. Black men have a 60% chance of being deleted due to homicide. Out of that 60, about 80 to 90% are deleted by another black male. And about 53 of those black males have someone who helped them delete another black man. Those are the statistics. The violence between black males is extremely high, and yet the black community, specifically black men, refuse to do anything about it. Tyre Nichols was beaten to death by 5 black cops in Memphis, Tennessee. The case has been all over the news, and everybody has been commenting about it. The Bodycam was recently released, and the news and social media coverage exploded afterwards. There are so many who say the beating is worse than the Rodney King beating, while others say that Tyre case is worse than George Floyd's case. Apparently, the cops belong to a special law enforcement unit called Scorpion Unit. It's a unit dedicated to placing law enforcement in areas that are high in crime areas.
The Scorpion Unit was put together to add extra visibility in the community and also develop relationships with community members. the acronyms stand for Street Crimes Operations to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. And it basically was that people felt like the police department was allowing gun violence in certain communities. And it wasn't that, it was just that police officers that are responding to calls for service had such high volumes of calls. The whole idea that the Scorpion unit is a bad unit, I just have a problem with that.
And this is the thing, you guys. This is in that unit, they deactivated that unit. But a few years ago, we were talking about, and still to this day, we're talking about defund the police, right? So defund the police, and then what? Who's going to protect these communities? Because clearly, right, you see all over social media, many men, black men saying black women don't need protection. And then the guys, the men who are in these communities, they are taking each other out. So, and then on the other flip side, you had people saying, oh, well, black cops should patrol black areas. Well, we see what happened, right? And this case is not just this one instant. This is just the one instant that, happened to get on national TV and go viral. But there are many black men who have been in situations with black cops and women, because I'm one of those women, right? I've been pulled over by a black cop before, and he was very ugly and rude to me for no reason. All right. But see, I don't say that. I don't talk about that publicly because I'm like, okay, that's a one-offer, right? I'm thinking it's a one-offer, right? Because these are things that we don't talk about. These are things that we publicly don't talk about. We publicly don't talk about, black areas and the men within those areas and the violence, because we're always blaming it on the system, white men, whatever, and when people say, oh, well, we are doing something about it. Where is that? The Million Man March, right? Million man, get it? Million man. So all of your great minds, the great men in leadership positions come together. They came together twice. Nothing has changed. What are we talking about here? Nothing has changed. And I do think that the Million Man March, there were a lot of good that came out of it. However, that still does not mean that it worked. That still does not mean that there is change. All right? That does not mean that. Things can be great, but then there can also be things that stay the same. But I do not see people as in black men with large platforms addressing this. It's not being addressed. It's not. And yes, where I've seen, those in I cannot think, with Minister Farrakhan and all, I think that they, I've seen videos of, people going out into certain areas and talking to the people and I've seen that. But that is a really small group compared to the overall. There are like, 40 something million black people in America. Like, that is a very, very small, it has to be a collective. It has to be a way more than just a teeny small population of people handling this issue or talking about this issue. And it has to be constantly talked about. You guys know how that goes, right? When you constantly see people talking about relationships, when you constantly see people talking about black women, when you constantly see people talking about, black men being shot, well, you need to constantly see black men talking about and putting forth the issue of violence that go on between them. Because the only way it's going to be fixed is by black men. It's a problem that is between black men. And if the white man is to blame, then that needs to be talked about too. Simple. This does not take rocket science, you guys. This does not take trigonometry and geometry to figure out. It's simple. Make it a priority. Make it public enemy number one. And attack it every single day as a collective. Not one or two men, not a group of 15, not a group of 10 or 50 or 200. Collective. It's 40 million of us. Half of that 40 million, 20 million black men. Listen to some of these interviews of black men who have been to prison. They'll tell you it ain't nobody out here doing the work. They'll tell you it was their homeboy, it was their uncle, it was the dudes down the street that put them on. Listen to DMX's story. The man who got him on drugs, a black man, much older than him. Listen to all these other stories. They homeboys, older men in the community is the one putting them onto this BS. Come on now, you guys. Let's be for real. Let's stop playing here. Let's just stop playing here. Over the last few days, I've seen all kinds of blame being thrown around to explain why five black officers would beat a fellow black brother to death. I've seen three main reasons, and they are: it's the racist institution's fault because the institution breed this type of behavior towards black people, basically blaming the white man. The second thing that I've seen, it's the hate that the white man taught the black man to have towards each other. Again, basically blaming the white man. And then number three, the whole system is broke and those officers were brainwashed, aka self-hate. Another way to sneakily blame the white man because, like Malcolm was quoted saying, "Who taught you to hate yourself?" So I've seen those common things as reasons. And this is the thing, with all the blame being thrown around, somehow black mothers and black female leadership positions were dragged into the conversation for who should take the blame. And of course, we saw the video of Jason Whitlock do that.
Racial element of this, because there is a racial element. And this is a story about young black men and their inability to treat each other in a humane way. Everybody involved in this on the street level was either 24 to 32 years old. Everybody. It was a group of young black men, 5-on-1. Looked like gang violence to me. It looked like what young black men do when they're supervised by a single black woman. And that's what they got going on in the Memphis Police Department. They've elected or put some black woman in charge of the police force. And we're getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities that are run by single mothers. If we want to discuss the breakdown of family that leads to disrespect for authority, that causes you to resist the police and run from the police and not comply with the police because you resist authority at all time, because there was no male authority in your home, let's have that discussion. But that's not where they want to take us. They want to take us down the path of saying, you know what, this is Tucker Carlson's fault. This is some random this is Donald Trump's fault. It's not. It's the breakdown of family and the buying in to all these left-wing things that have nothing to do with promoting family.
And to me, that is cowardice. Because who blames women for their own problems? Like, the violence that go on between black men is a black male issue. And apparently this was not Demetrius Haley, one of the cops that was arrested in this beating. This was not his first time beating a man. There is a report that Demetrius Haley was part of a group of officers that strip searched an inmate at a county detention center and beat the man until he blacked out, according to a 2016 federal suit, a civil rights complaint. So this is not his first time. How are you blaming women? Specifically, the Chief Davis, who is not even a single mother. The woman is married. So again, when Jason said that, I already knew where that was coming from. That was coming from jealousy, because this is the thing. He can do his research on everything else, but you mean to tell me you can't find out that this woman is married? So that was a way of him to, again, sneak in there. Oh, well, black single mothers is to blame. And this is a constant thing that I see with everything. It's always a black single mother, as if the father does not play a role in anything. Like, what? I mean, I personally don't get it, but I personally am a person who thinks logically. So yes, is single motherhood a problem within the black community? Absolutely it is. We can't deny that. Is it an issue when children come out of single parent homes? Absolutely. But guess what? There's a lot of research that talk about how the fathers who many of them go to prison. Are we going to talk about that? They go to prison, leaving their children with the mother. Many of them go to prison. Many of them are in prison. Many of them continuously go to prison. See, but we can't talk about that. Oh, we're supposed to not talk about that because that's not an issue. Yeah, they go into prison, leaving these women to raise these children on their own. That is a major issue in the Black community as well for why the single mother rate is like it is. All right. And if you go into these jailhouses, see, this is the thing. A lot of people, they don't do no social work. They are not in law enforcement. They sitting on the internet talking about shit they think they know. When you go into these jailhouses and you are talking to these men in these jailhouses, I think it's like 80% of them or something like that. And we're talking Black men. It's something like 80% of them, they don't even know their father. Their father never was around, or their father was in jail when they were a child, or their father was killed by another Black man. I mean, come on. But again, we don't talk about that. Oh no, it's easier to just say, oh, well, these guys are being raised in single parent homes, and that's it. We don't talk about, okay, well, what happened, right? Because something had to happen, right? I mean, because all the men didn't just say, oh, I'm just leaving. No, the men didn't have a choice because they out here messing around in these streets, doing illegal stuff, crime, and going to jail, or messing around in these streets and getting killed by each other. That's it. That's the population. So the reason why so many of these Black children are growing up in these single parent mother homes is because guess what? These Black men are dying. They're killing each other, or they doing mess and going to jail, just like these Black cops are finna do. Because I'm pretty sure they have children, some of them, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be leaving these children, the women, to take care of their children, and these women are going to be called single mothers because that's how that works. But nobody wants to talk about that. Not to mention trying to blame, Chief Davis for grown men. That would be like y'all going to, the companies and the agencies and wherever you work, the corporations that you work at, and blaming the person who is like your supervisor or your manager for you not being an adult and being a good person and being able to make the right decisions. Like that would literally be like that. You can't expect to go to work a job, and then the woman who is in a leadership position at that job be mothering you? What? But see, in the Black community, this is how we think. This is how we think. Like, dude, if you get hired to do a job and you're getting paid, do your effing job. Why should a Black woman be expected to mother these men? These are grown men who can make their own decisions. So, I mean, I don't understand. Like, okay, even if she was a single mother, what does that mean? She's not raising these dudes. She didn't raise these dudes. She don't have anything to do with the mindset of these dudes. I mean, come on. And if anything, I can agree, okay, maybe the environment, right? The environment, the law enforcement environment cultivates certain attitudes towards Black people. I can agree with that. But again, that's not something that you can solely blame a Black woman in leadership in law enforcement. Like, come on. But that's what we do. It's ridiculous. It's like, so what Jason said is so ridiculous. Like, I can't even. Let me continue, you guys. Let me continue. Okay, so where does the hatred that Black men have for each other come from? And I mean, do Black men hate each other? Because I mean, again, that's a real question being posed, right? So it's definitely taught, I believe, and it's cultivated by society. I do believe that. The sad truth is that many Black people want to be non-Black. Many Black people don't value each other because it's simply not taught, nor is it nourished by society, right? When do you ever see black parents saying, hey, that's your brother, that's your sister, another black person, respect? Like, you don't see that. I think to some degree, maybe it was like that, like, in like the 60s, 70s, or whatever, during that era where a lot of black people were coming into loving themselves and loving their natural hair and the afros and the skin. Like, I think there was that element of that, but that has long been gone. And society does not nourish that or cultivate that type of mentality. And so I think that, to some degree, it's just not being taught, right? And teaching somebody to love themselves is one thing, but teaching somebody to both love themselves and to love their people as in black people, that's a completely different thing. So just because you teach somebody to love themselves doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to overflow into loving the very people that they come from. And if you're living in areas or you're raising your children in areas where it's not a lot of us, again, you're not teaching that. And so I think that that's an issue too. Not a major one. I wouldn't say it was a major one, but I think that that is a valid thing. Like, I think that, it's really just not being taught. It's of course the school is not teaching that, and of course we can't expect the school to teach that. I mean, come on. But in the homes, teaching black children to, again, love themselves, love their blackness, but also love and respect and value black people. That's an actual teaching that has to happen. There are things that has to be said in that household to reflect that. There are actions and behaviors that have to be seen in that household to teach that. But if all you see in your household is somebody sitting up talking crazy about, Laquita down the street, right? Or talking crazy about Tadarius down the street and how broke Tadarius is, which is what we see a lot on social media. We see people jumping on social media, kids in the background, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever age, and they sitting up talking about broke Negroes. Or these dudes are sitting up talking about, women ain't SHIT. That's what a lot of these young kids are seeing, and that's what a lot of these young kids are growing up seeing on the internet as well. So it's not something that is actually being taught. And that's just my opinion, right? Blackness, or the image of blackness, historically has always been likened to poverty, hardships, and struggle. All right? Black people were taught to strive for equality, meaning whatever the white man, right, said is equality, right? So if the white person is living over here in these homes, then black people think equality is I can live over there in them homes too, right? Setting our own standard of equality, yes. Having the option, yes, that's equality to me, but not necessarily following suit. Not necessarily on every single thing. And there are a lot of us who think like that. And that's just the hard truth. And we really got to just start being honest about that. Right? So black people were taught to, yes, there has been a lot of propaganda, and yes, blackness, or the image of blackness, is constantly shown in movies, songs, music, and other in low vibrational forms. All right, I kind of talked about that earlier, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But those 5 cops definitely have self-hatred nurtured by the environment that they work in. Like many working in environments, because black people must ingratiate ourselves into Western likeness, right? The way that we speak, the way that we respond, qualifications, so on and so forth, right? So again, there is a degree that I would say, that perpetuates self-hate, right? With black people. But the bottom line is that those cops just did not see Tyre as one of their own brothers. They simply saw him just like, black cops in the video from Boys in the Hood that I showed earlier. That's how they saw him. And unfortunately, a lot of black people see each other just, it's like, okay, they don't, there's no value in, okay, man, that's a black woman doing well, doing good, looking good, healthy. Like, and I'm not saying it's none of that whatsoever, 100%. I'm not saying that. But we see so much of the opposite, right? And not, of the the encouragement and support. And so when you are raising people in an environment such as that, that's what you're going to get. You're going to build a lot of self-hate in people because they're not going to value blackness. And there is value in blackness. I know we don't see it, but it's there. It's there because, again, as a black woman, I can't say that there's not, because then I'm saying that, I'm not valuable. And I am. And I think that most of us, a lot of us, I'm not going to say most, because honestly, I don't know the statistics on that, but a lot of us are. I don't know how many, but a lot of us are valuable. And then those who, are not, I mean, we see it. We see it because these cops, they're not valuable. They're not valuable. What they did, no, they're not valuable. They're not valuable to the black community. They're not valuable to nobody. And I know that's harsh to say that, but they're not. What they did is just sick. And it's just like, wow. Especially when you got the George Floyds of the world, the Tamir Rices, all the others, right, who were taken out by, cops or whatever, and then they go and then do what they did. It's sick. All right, so going back to Jason Whitlock's statement, right? In his statement, he pointed out the hate black men have towards each other, but he also blamed black women for the behaviors of grown black men. Then he attacked black women in leadership positions. And see, that's what I think, that's where the jealousy comes in. Because Jason Whitlock would never blame white women for teen white male shooters, school shooters. He would have never said it. Even if he believed it, it would have never come out of his mouth. And to be quite honest with you, even a white man would never say that about white women raising teen white male shooters, school shooters. He wouldn't have never said that. But because anybody can attack, black women, the image of black women, and get away with it, to a certain extent. I mean, I know we just had that chef that we got up out of here, rightfully so, but anybody can attack. And it's almost like people think it's a meal ticket, like it's a golden ticket to just start, for no reason, out of nowhere, attacking either the image of a black woman or black women as a whole. And, single motherhood in the black community is attacked all the time. Black single mothers are attacked all the time. And when I say attacked, I mean, it's not like these people, when they say things, that they're saying things as in like, okay, let's see what we can do. What can we help with the situation? They're not doing it from a place of love or from a place of I truly care. They're saying these horrible things from, I want to put these women down. And you can tell where it comes from. You can tell by the voice. You can tell about how they say things. And, people who say, oh, well, it's a harsh, I'm just being harsh because they need to hear this. No, you're lying. You're hiding your hatred towards I'm just being harsh because no, you're lying. But the reason why Jason Whitlock would never say what he said about white women, right? So, hey, he would never say white women are the reason for why white male school shooters do what they do. He would never say that. And the reason why he wouldn't say that is because he knows that them white women and men would be on his ass. All right, so moving on. But this is the thing, dragging black women into everything and blaming black women for everything is what many think is a golden ticket to success. And unfortunately, hood success is not real success. I'm going to say that again. Hood success is not real success. He made that comment for the hood. That's what I believe. That's what I'm sticking to. And blaming women for, the issues of men and the issues that men have towards each other is silly. And I've already spoke my piece on that, so I'm not going to go into that any further. But yeah, that's all I have, you guys. I am interested to know what your thoughts are on this topic. And thank you guys for tuning in. And you guys, thank you for being supportive. And if you want to further support, please like the video. If you're new, thank you. I do also extend the offer to be a subscriber. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. You guys be easy. Bye.